Okay, so this morning, Tom, you said we have to be polemic.
Yep.
And then tonight,
Yep.
you said we have to have grace and salt.
Yep.
How are we to assess our presentation when we're speaking?
If they're, cringing and leaning back, probably too much salt and not enough grace and too much polemics. There's not going to be like an easy way to work. That's why I said tonight the key is to try to be clear. Because if you try to be clear, then you will have to engage in polemics. They'll say, I love Jesus. He's one of the best gods. And you go, oh, that's not what I meant. I'm going to have to engage in polemics in the sense that I'm going to have to show that what she said is not actually what I meant, not what the Bible means, and not true at all to Jesus. So if you're trying to be clear, you're just going to have to be polemical and say, well, actually what Jesus meant when he said that is that he is the only God that has ever existed and the only God that's come into flesh, and that only through him can you know the Father, because he's the only God and he's the only way to God. Do you understand what I mean? That there is no other gods. All these other gods that you're trying to join Jesus to, they actually don't exist. If they do exist, they're actually just ancient demons that have set up religions around themselves. And so no matter how politely you put it, if you want to be clear, you have to engage in polemics, right? And so polemics, I don't mean that every encounter looks like a Gordon Stein versus Greg Barnson debate. Not every conversation that Paul had looked like him standing up at the Areopagus and dismantling the philosopher's worldview. Not every conversation he had looked like he was declaring the truth boldly in Ephesus in the Hall of Tyrannus. Because we also, in Philippi, he just walks up to where there's a lady Jewish Bible study going on. He walks up, pretty non-confrontational, because they let him in, sits down, starts chatting to this gal, what's her name, Lydia, and the Lord opened her heart to see what he was saying. That was, now was he polemical? Well, yeah, she probably would have said, yeah, I've heard about this Jesus, but the Messiah is going to be this, and we heard that Jesus was crucified, and so he can't have been the Messiah. Engaging in polemics is simply bringing into that conversation negative theology, right? Which is simply to say, well, here's how the truth contradicts what you just said. And it can be polite, it's not a rage, it's not necessarily a debate. I think most one-on-one conversations should not be a debate. The only times I allow, like my personal conversations, to degrade into a debate is when I'm out on the street and I know that there's other people standing around and listening. So maybe younger Christians who are learning how to engage in polemics, or maybe their friends or his girlfriend or their friends standing behind them, so that as we debate, I'm really talking through them to their friends, because no one is ever convinced by a debate when they're in the debate. You're always convinced either later or not at all, right? Or by hearing the debate. So, I would encourage you to, that's the big aim. You want to be polemical in the sense that you're making a defense for, pushing against, making a case for truth and against error. You should always be willing to do that. But you need to be able to do that with grace and salt. How do you get the right balance? I believe the best way is to aim at clarity. If you aim at clarity, then you will simply have to get the right balance, and you'll learn. The only way to learn is by doing it. Have a conversation with your extremely opposed political neighbor or cousin at Christmas about Christianity and whether it's good for the world. Do it. I dare you. I double dare you, because the Bible commands you to do it, is evangelize. So just do it and just try. Just see how you get. Let's go. This is going to be a rough convo. Let's see if I can do this and us still be mates at the end of it. That's the... Be clear, and you will find by the help of God's Spirit and by your own prayers, if you love them. If you don't love them, you won't care whether you are clear. You won't care whether they've heard you. You'll just love the fact that you just presupped to them and now their worldview is bleeding on the ground. That's not love. If you love them, then you'll aim to be clear and be as gracious as you need to be. It doesn't matter how soft somebody else might think you're going. You're aiming to be clear and helpful and conversational, but you're not neglecting salt, so you bring that into it, etc., etc.
Very helpful.